Hello and welcome to the Comic Schtick Podcast, where comics are my shtick. I'm doing the pointing thing now if you're watching the video, because now you can listen to this podcast in audio format. Spotify, it's based out of Podbean. What other websites? I haven't done the Apple thing because I hate Apple and I just don't feel bothered enough to go through it. Bunch of other podcasting things. Find the link in the description to, like, I don't know, the Podbean setup or however I'm going to do it. I'm your host, Blake. It's the first time I have introduced myself in this podcast series. I figured episode 5 was as best a time to do it as any. Today's probably going to be a short episode, fairly short. I don't have much to talk about, really, aside from Nocenti's Daredevil. I got a nice update there, because if you haven't been listening or watching, I am doing an entire reread of Nocenti's Daredevil. It is a fantastic series, and I have now gotten to the section of books that I have not read before. I've only ever read the first, 20, 30 issues of her run, and now I have broken past that. So I am in the blind here. I'm going into it completely blind. I don't know what's going to happen next. Otherwise, I'm mostly talking a lot about movies and some show stuff this week. More mixed media, I suppose. So let's get right into it. But before I do that, Destructo Boy, the era of Alpha Cardinal, is coming to you very soon. I was having issues with the quality of the prints in our test prints. I finally figured out what it was. It was an issue with the files that were being sent to the printer themselves. So I fixed that, and this is the final proof. Everything looks crisp and clean. Let me see if I can flip this at all. Here are all the pages. Everything's done in issue 1. Issue 2 is completely done. Issue 3 I am almost done with. I have about 3 pages left, 2 or 3 pages. And then I'll be going to issue 4 and issue 5. It is a 5-issue miniseries about Destructo Boy, who is right here on the cover. I should probably tell you more about the book itself, other than just saying that it's coming. Destructo Boy is a little robot man who lives on a giant space station called Zephyrus Colonial Space Station. He is essentially Superman, but a little robot guy, Astro Boy, I guess. He fights giant monsters, fights villains, saves the day. He's a good guy. This 5-issue little miniseries is just 3 different adventures of Destructo Boys. The first 4 issues are part 1 and part 2. Part 1 and part 2. And then the last issue is one longer story that's a bit longer than this. The stories run about 25 pages or so. It's just little fun vignettes into Destructo Boy's life. Sort of, the old style of comics. The compressed storytelling style of comics. I wasn't, not decompressed, like you're writing it for the trade paperback or whatever. You're trying to make it a bunch of issues. Because I don't know how many issues people are willing to read of this. So I figured I'd get as much stuff in here as I could. And that is why, that's why I did the first part and second part. So if you just want to read the Era of Alpha Cardinal, then you can. If you want to read the second 2-parter, The Eclipse of Googleplex, you can do that. Or you can just read the last issue by itself. All you need to know is that there's a little robot guy, and his name's Destructo Boy, and he's gonna fight some bad guys. But, that's my sales pitch. Quite happy with that, I guess. So let's just get right on into it. This is going to be a Daredevil-heavy episode, as this podcast has become for some reason. As I've said before, I like Daredevil. Especially, I never really was familiar with him, or never really read much of his stuff before the Netflix show came out. Excuse me. It was mostly, if he appeared in events or had tie-in issues, I would read those. But other than that, I didn't read much of Daredevil until after the Netflix show came out. And the Netflix Daredevil show is just masterclass of fucking comic book TV shows. If I had to list my top 3, it would be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil, Peacemaker. No particular order. Those are all just great comic book shows. But yeah, anyway, the MCU Daredevil is coming back, apparently. He's going to have his own show, according to a production listing in this, monthly production magazine that you can buy a subscription to for like $45 a month, and it just has lists of what is in production and like brief synopses and like who the producers are. It makes sense if you're, running a media like website or something where you need to keep up to date with that, but I don't, so I just read the IGN article on it. There was nothing there. There's nothing aside from Daredevil is getting a reboot. It's not a reboot, okay? Can we just stop calling this a reboot? Because it's not. It's not a reboot. Charlie Cox has said that it's the same Daredevil. Fucking Vincent D'Onofrio has said that he's the same character. I don't understand what people's problems are with, Kingpin is super strong. Yeah, it's like he is in the comics, goddammit. Oh, but Kingpin, he's a weak little man who does stuff himself. He never did that. He was personally going to see Kate's mother because he figured that he needed her for a plan. And, he imposes himself and threatens people himself in the Netflix show. There was nothing different about Kingpin in this show aside from his awesome outfit and the fact that he's clearly been juicing. Like, we just had a whole show in The Falcon and Winter Soldier where there is somebody who is selling like enhancement drugs to villains. Why wouldn't Kingpin take advantage of that? How is that so hard to believe? It's not a reboot, everybody. It's a continuation of the show. There's no reason why this needs to be called a reboot other than, one, everybody calls everything a reboot, and two, it's clickbait. It's really what it boils down to. People use reboot way too often when they don't mean it. It's a continuation. It's a revival. And reboot, people see reboot and they're like, oh man, they're gonna reboot Daredevil to be like a fucking PG-13 kids show or something. And then that gets them to go on there and complain about it and talk about it on Twitter. But yeah, anyway, there's not much that I can really talk about because we don't know anything. Apparently there is a synopsis that was in that production magazine, production issue. It seems, according to the IGN article, to just be it's just like a copy and paste of the Netflix one. Also, something I learned about when I was reading this, that I'd never really considered, is that Disney had to go through and remove all the Netflix titles and logos from the introductions of the shows. The Daredevil ones seem fine because it's mostly static imagery, like as the background, and it's like the dripping like blood falling onto the figure, so that seemed pretty easy. But then there's the Jessica Jones one, which I saw a clip of, where it's so clear that they just replaced something because it's a focus on nothing. There's music playing, and in the original Netflix version, there's like some scratchy like white like little background paint or whatever, and then it would be like Marvel Television and Netflix presents blah blah blah, a Netflix original. But now it's just a brick wall, which is what it was originally, and like the blank scratchy white texture effect added onto it with nothing there. And it becomes quite noticeable when it immediately brings up another credit that's like Marvel or Disney or something like that, and it has the scratchy white background. I don't know, I just feel like they could have done something better with that. I don't remember what Luke Cage or Iron Fist intros were, or how easily or how well replaced those became. But yeah, that's just a fun little bit. And Charlie Cox has said that, he hopes that Daredevil remains R-rated, which it seems like a pretty good chance since, one, they didn't censor any of the Netflix shows. They just gave you the option to adjust the maturity setting on the different accounts on Disney+. And two, Deadpool 3 is in production. We know that because it's also in that issue that Daredevil was in. Deadpool 3 is listed immediately after it. And Deadpool 3 is definitely going to be an R-rated film because that's what makes it successful. That and the fact that it's Deadpool. And don't even get me started on why Deadpool is so big, because I'm going to start bitching about Daniel Way and his shitty Deadpool run. I guess I'll move on to the next topic. It is another show. Actually, all three of these are shows. The first 1, 2, 3. Yeah, the first three of the... Fuck. 3 of the first 4 topics I have this week are about TV shows. There we go. Harley Quinn, animated spinoff. I have watched some of the first season of Harley Quinn. I need to get it back around to it. I really do, because I really like that show. I love Ron Fuches. I don't know how you say his last name. As Killer Shark. He's great. Alan Tudyk as Clayface. I can't remember the woman who played Kaylee Kuko as Harley Quinn. She's great. Everything about that show is great. It's fantastic, especially just, from the stuff I've seen. It's all fun. It's all great. There is going to be a Harley Quinn animated spinoff starring Kiteman, or about Kiteman, I guess. According to this article I read briefly, it's going to be about Kiteman owning a villain bar. And that bar is Nonan's bar. Noonan? Let me... Yeah, so it's about Kiteman owning Noonan's bar. If you don't know what that is, I don't know if it's appeared in the Harley Quinn show or not. Like I said, I haven't seen much past like halfway through the first season, so I don't know if they visited this place already or if it's already established that Kiteman owns it or works there or whatever it's going to be. It's like Cheers, but with villains. Noonan's bar is from the HITMAN series, or just HITMAN series. That was correct either way. I don't know why I clarified myself. The Garth Ennis written HITMAN DC series that came out of Bloodlines. HITMAN, he's a hitman, obviously. He's a guy, he wears sunglasses all the time because he has, he has like some sort of special vision. It's been a while since I've read any of it. But I remember that he has like terrifying looking kaleidoscope eyes or something, and like it's X-ray vision and like heat signatures and like other crazy shit that his eyes can do, and he doesn't see like people see. He sees like a special vision or whatever. But yeah, so I'm feeling that's a pretty good chance that Hitman is gonna at least make a cameo appearance in the Kiteman show. Hitman's a beloved character, I think. I love him. He's a great character. He's fun. He's cartoonishly violent. Written by Garth Ennis. I love Garth Ennis. So I can't really say anything about this. Garth Ennis, he hates superheroes. He wrote The Boys. But there's always that issue of Hitman where he brings in Superman, and it's just like it's like a heart-touching comic, because Garth Ennis, the one superhero he actually likes, is Superman. So I doubt Superman's going to be in the show. Hitman might be in the show. Maybe like the first episode, there's a little cameo or something. Like Hitman comes in and like he talks a little bit, and then it's done. Because there are supporting characters to Hitman that, reside at the bar, work there, always hang out there. He has like his group of friends during the my face is getting blown out because I'm so pale on the video. Is it Endless Winter? Is that what that late 90s event was, where like it snows around the whole world or something like that? In that issue, the crossover with that, it takes place entirely in the bar. Nothing special happens. They lose power, and then they just hunker down as there's like riots and shit outside, and just stay inside the bar the whole issue. It's pretty fun. Hitman, like I said, all together, it's very fun of a show. I have been, waiting for DC to make a Hitman show, be it animated or live action. It would be a great show for them. It'd be violent, it'd be cartoony, it'd be fun, like Peacemaker. I think that would be a great idea for DC to do, especially in this new run that they're doing of the shows where they're embracing their comic booky nature. They aren't trying to be fucking Jesus parallels and analogies, and it's all dark and everybody's moody and everything's fucking desaturated and fucking shit. Movie studios are finally accepting that these comic books are ridiculous. So, goddammit, DC and Warner Brothers, give us a Hitman show. I can't remember. I don't even know if he has a real name, does he? I can't remember it. I don't know what the show's going to be about. I know that Kiteman is like infatuated and obsessed with Poison Ivy. I don't know what their relationship is like, whatever season they're in. I think it's 3. Is 3 already out, or is it coming out? I don't remember. So I don't know if that'll play. I feel like if anything, it'll be it'll start off with Kiteman sort of being in the dumps about getting rejected by Ivy or whatever. It doesn't work out if they are together, something like that. And then, I don't know, some other female villain he falls in love with maybe, or he tries to do something to win her over and that's what the show's about, or blah, 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 or it's or it's just Cheers, but with DC villains set in Noonan's bar in Gotham. Who knows? I don't think there's much information about it. Moving on to another show topic, one I know even less about than the Harley Quinn. And that is Irredeemable and Incorruptible, the Netflix shows based off of Mark Waid's 2 comic books that are beloved, I guess. I don't know, I've never read them. Because I've never read them, I just sort of wanted to bring it up just because, I know about it. Let me read off this little thing right here that I have on my phone because I didn't bother writing it down on my computer. It is going to be directed, apparently. Is it a show? No, actually, it is a film adaptation. So I don't know if it's going to be 2 separate things or if it's going to be Irredeemable and Incorruptible put together. It seems like it's the latter, I think. Anyway, James Samuel, director of The Harder They Fall. Never heard of it, never seen it. I'm not familiar with this man. He is going to direct the adaptation of Boom Studios' graphic novel series, Irredeemable, and its spin-off, Incorruptible, for Netflix. Maybe Irredeemable is the movie and Incorruptible is a show? Maybe that's what they're doing? Maybe they're both shows. Maybe they're both movies. Like the Zack Snyder zombie heist spun off into a regular heist movie. I don't know. Let's see. Kemp Powers, who is the writer of One Night in Miami and Soul, something I've actually seen. And he's also the director of Spider-Man Spider-Verse 2, Part 1. I guess we don't know who's directing the second one? I thought that was information we knew about. I don't know. He's going to be writing it alongside Joaquin Dos Santos and Justin Thompson. Never heard of them either. Let's see. And then it just sort of goes in about it. So what Irredeemable is about the Plutonian, who is Superman. One day he just cracks under all the pressure, and he can't handle it, and he starts going crazy, and, he falls apart. He's evil Superman, essentially. He becomes an evil Superman because he just can't handle it anymore. He has a breakdown. Incorruptible is about the villain of that universe, or a villain of the universe. Like I said, I have no idea what these 2 characters' relations are to one another. I don't know if it's a Lex Luthor, Superman sort of thing. I don't know. Incorruptible is about a villain named Max Power who becomes a hero. It's opposites. it's the opposite of one another. And Plutonian becomes a bad guy. Power Man. What was his name again? I already forgot. Max Damage. Is that what I said before? Or did I say Max Power? Max Damage becomes a good guy. The article on Netflix.com's About page about this mentions that it has sold 1.5 million copies and sold over 30 issues about 2 or 3 times for some reason. They start this paragraph of the synopsis of what the comic's about with those statistics, and they bookend the article about what this comic book's about with those statistics. I don't know why they're showing that off so much. I feel like once was enough. I guess they want to be like, no. After that Mark Miller thing, no, we got this. Look at this popular thing, guys. This is popular. Won't you like this? Please don't make us cancel it, because you made us cancel that Mark Miller show, whatever that was. Fuck. Jupiter's Legacy. Is that it? Or am I getting that confused with... No, Jupiter Ascending is that Mila Kunis movie. I think it's Jupiter's Legacy. Is that right? I don't know. They should have just called it Jupiter's Child, like the Steppenwolf song. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up just because, I don't know, there might be somebody who brings it up in the comments, be like, what are your thoughts on that, Smokey? Because if you're listening to this and you're unaware, I have a YouTube channel called Smokey's Videos. So that's what people call me online. There's my thoughts on the Irredeemable and Incorruptible Netflix project, I guess is what I'll say, because I'm still unsure as to whether or not this is a show or a film. Oh boy. Oh god. You guys ready for Morbius? I'm not a fan of Morbius. I don't give a shit about Morbius. If you can hear that bird outside, it's chirping literally outside my window. There's a big tree right there. Maybe Morbius will come by and swoop it up in his big bat fingers and eat it. Or whatever it is he does. Oh, God, Morbius is so fucking bad. So, I'm going to just start this off with the news that I've just learned, based on leaks that have been coming out from... Oh, God, if you're unaware, there is a whole... excuse me. There is a whole leaker, I guess, culture online. There are people who are like, oh, that person's a good leaker. They're top class. They're an A-class information leaker. They're a good guy. Yeah. Did you subscribe to their Patreon? That's right. These people who are leaking information about movies have Patreons to subscribe to like get the information sooner, I guess. I don't know what else would be on there, since, they're not making anything. They're just making rumors and like talking about them, like stuff that they've been told from other people. They're progressing rumors and some information that is correct. It is ridiculous, because there's a Marvel Studios spoilers subreddit is where I read a lot of the Marvel leaks. There are people on there who are like, they just like, oh, you really believe in so-and-so? Oh, they're ridiculous. So this other person gets it right all the time. Stuff like that. It's like, they've just created their own little world for themselves. It's insane. There's a whole micro ecosystem on the internet that is just nothing but rumors and leakers. Rumorists? Is that a word? And leakists. I don't know. It's an odd phenomenon to experience when you you see it and you're like, oh, hey, I recognize that name. They talked about fucking so-and-so a couple months ago in that other Marvel movie. But then you keep seeing these names over and over again, and you pull out, and it's just like a bubble of leaks and rumors, and it's just all these people compacted in there. And like they all know like the insides and outs, they know the acronyms and whatever else. It's just odd. It's odd. It's a weird, like I said, it's an odd phenomenon. Anyway, one of those leakers has said that I don't know, what's the more interesting thing? I think, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. So it's information about Morbius. So skip ahead to the next time code. I have all the time codes on all of my topics in the description. So, if you don't want to hear leaks and spoilers possibly about Morbius, if you care that much about this dumb movie, no offense, just go to the next topic, which will be Nocenti's Daredevil. If you don't give a shit, stay in your seat. Or keep doing whatever you're doing. Keep walking your dog if that's what you're doing. So, the first thing I want to talk about is that Morbius is going to be set in its own universe, apparently. There's some discussions about, like, after, test screenings and early screenings or whatever it was, and, like, leaks were coming out, information, and one of the big leakers got asked, like, hey, is Morbius, is that its own thing? Is it like David Pumpkins and his skeleton background dancers? Or is it in a broader universe? Is it the Venom universe? Because he fucking references Venom. No, apparently, according to this person on Twitter, gotta trust him. Trust him like you would Peacemaker would trust somebody on Twitter. This person says that it is not... it is in its own universe. Apparently Morbius is going to be set in its own continuity, its own universe. Venom's still going to be there, I guess, unless they cut that scene only for the trailer. So that makes me think, because I was talking about this earlier with a buddy of mine. We were talking about it, and I came to the conclusion that I think, because everything we've seen from the trailers, it's Michael Keaton as a prisoner, and that's meant to elicit feelings and recognition of, hey, Michael Keaton was the bad guy in the Marvel Spider-Man movie. I know him, in the general audience. So they're like, oh, Morbius is in the MCU. I think there are about two options here. One is that Sony specifically did this because there's also the poster in the trailer of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It's like murderer written across it, and we're like, oh, people think he's a murderer because Mysterio. And there were like leaks when that came out, or like after that came out, saying that poster was going to be replaced with images of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, like we saw in No Way Home. It was just like a placeholder for the trailer. But what I think is that Sony created this movie. Oh, Jesus, my neck. Sony created this movie in such a way as to, you know, be like, hey, Marvel, look, we can be in the MCU, like, just because they're so batshit insane at Sony Pictures. They're being led by Amy Pascal and her fucking Typhoid Mary-esque hair, that they're just like, yeah, no, if we own that stuff still. We own that. They just, like, licensed it out to us. So I already said that Venom's in the MCU, or whatever it was that she said that Kevin Feige looked pissed off about. I can't remember what it was. It was some interview where she's like, oh yeah, no, it's all taking place in the Marvel Universe. I don't know why she sounds like Sarah Palin, but she does. So they're like, oh, we can just make this little thing off to the side. You know, it's a little vampire story, but he's not really a vampire. He's a science vampire or whatever. Even though the other rumors and leaks don't seem that that's the case. I'll get to that in a bit. So they make Morbius as it can be or it can't be. Or, you know, they're leaning towards like, oh yeah, no, this is in the MCU. Look, there's Vulture, there's Spider-Man's a murderer. He's talking about this and that. Venom's there. Ooh, Venom could be in the MCU. And then Kevin Feige is just fucking looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing? What is wrong with you? And so that doesn't work, or it won't work, assuming this isn't what they're doing. You know, it's just something like they're keeping it in their pocket, essentially. Like, hey, Morbius is in your pocket if you ever want to bring him into the Blade movie and have Mahershala Ali kill him. It's either that they made it hoping that they could get Morbius into the MCU, or more likely, they're using the recognition, which is Morbius, Spider-Man villain. Spider-Man in the MCU. He references Venom in the trailer. Venom, own universe. We know this after No Way Home. We knew this when the movie fucking came out and there was no Spider-Man in it. But you can still say, I don't know what the fuck happened to my voice. You can still say that Morbius is in a universe with Spider-Man, because there's the Spider-Man poster. But I don't think that's what they're trying to do. I think they are just simply using Michael Keaton and the Spider-Man posters and shit as a way to trick people into seeing this movie. They're being deceitful tricksters. And they're just they're just using that to get more asses in the seats. Because, you know, the general audience, like I said, they don't follow all this. They don't know about the leaker ecosystem I was talking about. They don't know who Morbius is. They might from the Spider-Man cartoon show where he has the little suckers on his hands. But they're not going to do that. They're not. I doubt so much that Kevin Feige wants anything to do with this universe at all. I feel like Venom appearing was sort of pushing the limits for him. I don't know. I can't speak for the man himself. I'm just projecting my own feelings upon him. But they're definitely just using this stuff to get people's attention. Because that leads into my next thing, which is, let me trace back. Morbius is going to be in its own universe. It's not in the MCU. Apparently, it's not even in the Venom universe. At least it doesn't seem so. Maybe, I don't know how you could know that. Because he references Venom in the goddamn trailer. He's like, "Who are you?" "I'm Venom." "No, just kidding. It's me, Michael Morbius." Like, why are you telling these guys they're your name, you motherfucker? You're a vampire monster. You goddamn creep, Gerard Leto. So who the fuck knows what Sony's doing? But apparently, in regards to Michael Keaton's appearance, the scenes from the trailer to get people to think that he's the Vulture. I still don't know if he is the Vulture or not. I doubt it. He's probably going to be like Prisoner 248910. Step aside. Something like that. He's just going to be a guy. Apparently his only scene in this movie is a post-credits sequence or a mid-credits sequence. It's during the credits. Apparently all of his trailer scenes have been cut from the film. Except for something at the very fucking end. Which, again, leads me to believe they were just doing this deceitfully. Other leaks about the film itself, because I briefly mentioned it when I was talking about Morbius being a science vampire, is that, oh god, he goes to this ancient temple that we see, and he runs into Matt Damon, what is his name? Matt Smith. Matt Smith is the villain. He's like an evil vampire that's been around, and he also has the power. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've read these like leaked these leaked plot synopses. I should have wrote it down beforehand. Morbius, he devours an entire ship of people because he's been missing. We briefly see that in the trailer itself, so that seems to happen. He has like this whole underground fighting sequence, and then there's like it seems to be like, "You are the protector of the vampires," or whatever, because Matt Smith reveals, I think it's Matt Smith. It might be some other guy. I can't remember who the other man is, who the other white man is, because there's the black cop with like the robot arm or something. He's going to be like tracking him down or whatever, this shit. And he loses his arm in one of the fights. That's why he has the robot prosthetic, like Misty Knight. There's going to be a scene where Morbius opens a coffin and finds a destroyed, decrepit skeleton. And he's like wearing the comic book accurate Morbius suit. And then Morbius is like, "Ha, that's crazy. I would never wear that. That's ridiculous. Who would ever in their right mind wear that?" You get it. It's a little nod to the comic book fans that says, "Fuck you, you're stupid." From what I remember, it's Morbius fights Matt Smith and maybe another vampire, and it's just stupid bullshit. And then he wins, obviously. It's just a bunch of shit. Morbius gets like imprisoned for some reason. He fights a guy or he kills a guy or something, which is why he meets Michael Keaton. And an earlier rumor was like, "Oh yeah, there's a scene with Michael Keaton in it, and he stops Morbius when he's in the prison, and he's like, 'Hey, I'm forming a team. You want to join up?' And then there's a power outage and riots happen, and Morbius escapes and Michael Keaton escapes, and then people were like, 'Oh yeah, Michael Mando's Scorpion from Spider-Man No Way Home or Spider-Man Homecoming escapes too, and Cletus Cassidy, Woody Harrelson escapes.'" And I'm like, what the fuck is this movie? I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm not gonna see it. I'll say right now, I'm not gonna watch this goddamn movie until it comes out at a discounted price on home release. So you're not going to get my information or my talking about it anytime soon. God damn, it just seems like such a clusterfuck. And then I saw another tweet that was like, "Rumor." I don't know why they have to put rumor at the beginning. "Rumor. Morbius early screenings receive negative reception." Like, is that a rumor? Is it? Because it feels like a lot of people are talking about it. If these are the people who've seen the movie, how is that a rumor? How is it a rumor to say that the people coming out of the movie didn't like it, if they're the ones who are saying it? Or is it just like, is it people reading the minds of what's going to happen when this movie comes out and it gets shat on, but still manages to make a lot of money, I imagine? Because that's what's fucking happened with the Venom movie. Although more people seem to like it and be more excited about it since it's Venom and not dumbass Morbius played by Jared Leto. Oh god, what is Sony doing? Does this mean that in the spunk, I think? What is it? It's the Sony Spider-Man. Oh, what is it? God damn it. I need to know what this is. So I'm gonna Google this real quick. I'm gonna vamp. I'm just gonna write SPUMMC. I think that's how, or is it 1M? It's like the Sony Villains Universe or something like that. What does it stand for? Here it is. In March 2019, a Sony Pictures Entertainment presentation referred to the, quote, Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, also known as Spunk. Seems like now that they've reversed that and now they just call it the SSU, Sony Spider-Man universe. There's no goddamn Spider-Man in there. So you can't call it that. You gotta call it Spunk. Which is the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters. Because Spider-Man isn't here. So anyway, is there, in the wider net of the Spunk, is there now going to be Venom here, Morbius in another section, and Kraven over here? Because don't forget, they're making Kraven. Oh yeah, and then the Spider Madam Web movie with Julia Carpenter as the main character. They're doing that too. Oh, and then there's going to be like a Silk TV show, so you got to add that down here. And the Silk show apparently is going to have the same girl who played that character in Homecoming? God, what are they doing? I don't know. They're taking everything. It's like the MCU is a big, nice block of cheese. And then Amy Pascal and the other Sony producers, they just come over with the cheese grater and they just start grating that off. They and get whatever flakes they can take from it. And then they package that cheese in little bags. And they're like, hey, check out this cheese. It's the same cheese, but less of the cheese. Oh god, I hate it so much. I don't know. If I keep going, I'm just gonna shit on Sony's Marvel movies for like the next hour. Oh man. So I'm just gonna move on to the Nocenti Daredevil, which it's gotten great. It's so good. I've finished the whole, or almost, I've reached the climax of the Typhoid Mary arc, which is, if you're unfamiliar, Typhoid Mary, well, at this point she's called Typhoid. It's at a later issue where she eventually goes like, I'm Typhoid Mary. I don't know. Typhoid's one personality, Mary is the main personality. At this point, Typhoid is a mercenary character. She's a woman with multiple personalities. Her Typhoid personality has super strength and telekinesis and can light shit on fire. She's pyrokinetic. She has all this other shit. She's been hired by Kingpin. Also, she can make men fall in love with her for some reason. She has pheromones or some shit. She's been hired by Kingpin to destroy Matt Murdock's life. I'm taking my socks off because I'm getting hot. I'm getting hot and riled. That's why I had to stop talking about Morbius. She has been hired because Kingpin knows his identity. And he's already ruined Matt Murdock's life. Matt's not a lawyer anymore. At this point, he is running a free clinic, which offers free legal advice and helps people get into rehabs and work through their drug problems and shit like that. It's like an advice clinic or some shit. So he's doing that right now. And he hires Typhoid Mary to ruin his life. Mary uses her abilities on Matt, seemingly. I'm still not sure. Let me finish off what I'm saying. Typhoid Mary's been paid $1 million to ruin Matt Murdock's life. To do that, she falls in love with him, essentially, or she makes him fall in love with her. She comes first as, they run into each other when she's in her typhoid personality. She's like, ooh, who's this guy? Yeah, I like him. And then Mary begins appearing, and she is, I previously mentioned a small little black kid whose name I think is Tyrone. He was blinded in a chemical spill. There's a whole overarching story about his father, their lawyer, and Matt helping them in a lawsuit against the Kelco company who are dumping their wastes illegally. Foggy Nelson is actually representing Kelco because he was hired by Kingpin. So that's, some back and forth against them, against Matt and his former partner. But Mary appears in the hospital and she's like, oh yeah, I'm like a counselor, I guess, is the best way to put it. She's like a counselor that helps children, I guess, or like she helps blind children specifically. I'm not too sure. I don't know if she's like, if she actually does this, if she's falsified records or something. But she shows up and she and Matt start talking and like they start like bonding. Again, it's not made very clear if Matt Murdock is in like complete control of himself. The optimist in me says, the Optimus Prime inside of me, the optimist says that it's typhoid having an influence on him. The realistic person in me says that Matt Murdock has a sex addiction. Because, it is just the word. Oh, God, it just makes me upset inside reading this scene. So it's like a month or two, a couple months later. Matt's, like I said, a previous issue, he's been training and helping Tyrone. And then once Mary comes in, they both sort of like tutor him and teach him and help him out. Put him through like physical therapy. I don't know why I question myself. But there's this point where Matt wakes up in the morning, he's getting ready, he's getting dressed, ready to go down to the clinic. And Karen Page, his girlfriend, they live together. She gets all ready and she leaves before him. She's gone. And then a ring at the doorbell comes and it's Mary and Tyrone, the boy, who's blind. They're like, hey, man, we just stopped by. Are you ready? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like talking a little bit. And Tyrone's like, oh, man, your apartment sounds like really big or, something like that. He's like, oh, man, I've never been here. Where am I? What part of the house am I in? And Matt's like, oh, you're in the kitchen. And he's like, oh, cool. And so the boy's just walking around. And then Mary and Matt, like, they just get up close and personal with each other. They're like embracing, heaving against each other, breathing real heavy, and like they're just like coming on to each other completely as this little boy. It's essentially like, it's like Matt's cheating on his, it's not like, it is that he's cheating on Karen, but it's like he's cheating on Karen with his son present, because he's been taking care of this boy. He's formed a personal relationship and bond with the kid. And the kid's like, hey guys, are you still there? What happened? Where am I? I can't see. Guy, hello? And they're not answering him. They're completely ignoring this blind child as like, they're just slowly like getting impersonal on each other, like standing like fucking face to face, like that goddamn close. And they start like kissing slowly. It is so just depressing to see. It just makes me hurt inside. It makes me uncomfortable to just see that. Like, I don't know, if the kid wasn't there, I would have had less of a reaction to it. But that's great writing. That's, you in essence become the kid, because Matt Murdock's the main character, and now he's cheating on Karen Page with Mary, who we know is a villain at sometimes in her life. And you're just like, no, Matt, don't do that. What are you doing? But he can't hear you. He's a comic book character. He's living in his own 2D world that we create for him and we can control in any way we can, except we cannot influence him. So we just, in essence, become Tyrone. We're like, Matt, hello? Matt, Matt, where are you? What are you doing? And they just ignore him. And, like, he just, like, hello? He just stops talking after a while. He's just like, oh, well, fuck, I'll give up, I guess. And then it just cuts to another scene later. And, like, it's never brought up again. Well, I mean, you know, the whole thing with Typhoid Mary is brought up in Mary and him cheating. But, like, he just never talks about it again. He's like, where did you guys go? What happened? They probably told him, like, they stepped outside to talk or something. But, goddamn, it is such a... It's dark. It's a dark scene. Not in the traditional way. Which is why I love Nocenti's Daredevil run. It is great in non-traditional ways. Typhoid Mary, you know, she is just an incredible character. I would honestly say that she's my second favorite Daredevil villain after Kingpin. Fuck Bullseye. He's one note. He's a bullshit asshole. Bullseye. So yeah, it's a lot of that. It's just like one-off stories here and there. Overarching story is Typhoid and Mary are coming closer to Daredevil. What the fuck is that? Something just flew past my face. You know, so their relationship in secret grows. What else? There's the lawsuit, which they do end up winning, which is a great scene because, you know, Matt's not there because, you know, he's been disbarred, but he does still show up at the court hearing. Like I said earlier, Foggy is working against them, and the lawyer on the side of Murdoch's side is like a new up-and-coming lawyer, and during his like final speech, Foggy's just like sitting at his desk, leaning back. He's like, oh, sorry about that. Oh, Matt wrote this speech. God damn it. But, you know, he's like, he knows that Kelco is a shitty company. And eventually he tells Kingpin that he quits. Kingpin is also there because he wants to see the courts lose. Or, you know, Murdoch to lose. And then Matt comes up and stands right next to him. He's like, oh, you enjoying the show, you fat prick? And Kingpin just like smirks. He's like, oh, I'm enjoying the show, all right. There's an interesting issue which involves the Punisher. And it's the villain is an aspirin killer inspired case. Or, well, that's what he does in the issue. I can't remember if it was aspirin in real life, but I do believe this was based off of a real story where some guy in like a bottling plant was poisoning cases or bottles of aspirin or like some other medicine. It's essentially that this guy got laid off from his company because they upgraded to like computers and he couldn't keep up with it, so he quit, or he got fired rather, and now he has a vendetta. The interesting thing about this is that it's a crossover with a Punisher War Journal. And I haven't bothered reading the Punisher War Journal issue, but I do know that both of these books, like, if you read one, you get that point of view of the character, which obviously you would, but you get like a little bit of overlapping here and there, I guess. But like, I don't know, I think like they end in different places, essentially. Punisher obviously has tracked this guy down, and he's going to go kill him. I'm basing this only off of the Daredevil part, so I don't know what else he got up to. But Daredevil's also tracking the guy down through more kinder means, like interviewing a current employee who knows something about the guy. And by the time Daredevil finds where he lives, he sees Punisher on the roof beating the shit out of the guy, and Punisher prepares to throw the killer off the roof, and Daredevil stops him. Punisher tries to shoot the guy again. He's like, fuck off, Red. And he tries to shoot him, but Daredevil stops him. They get into a fight as the aspirin killer is just lying there like, what the fuck is going on? So it's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 pages of Daredevil and Punisher just fighting as this guy watches them. And eventually he's like, Punisher's gun is right there. Oh, shit. His gun's right there. And he reaches for it and grabs it. And he's like, okay, don't you two move. And then they both stop fighting because they've, like, they back up and they got their fists ready, but they're arguing. Like, Daredevil is obviously like, he needs to go through the court system, and Punisher's like, you still believe in that shit, character stuff. But the guy, he holds his gun to him, and it's first person character, or first person point of view. And he's like, he tells him to stand down because he has the gun. And both of them just slowly turn and look at him. And then before the guy can do anything, Daredevil just wham! And slams one of his batons, sends it flying, slams it into the guy's face, and he blacks out. And the next panel is just all black. And like the narration's like, and that's the last thing I remember before waking up in jail. So that's a fun issue. Something I thought of and realized as I was reading this story arc is that Typhoid Mary is like MJ and Gwen Stacy and Felicia Hardy all combined into one. She is those she's not one character. She's those three characters to Daredevil's Spider-Man. Felicia Hardy is more typhoid. They're both criminals. They might have killed people here and there. Felicia really only cares about Spider-Man, whereas Typhoid is only interested in Daredevil. The Gwen part in MJ, those sort of just go together as normal-ish romantic interests. MJ is maybe a little more typhoid because she's just party girl kind of attitude. She careless, devil may care sort of attitude. But I don't know, I just thought that was a fun comparison that I wanted to bring up. Something I just thought about while I was reading it. I cannot say enough good things about Typhoid Mary. She is a fantastic character. I know she was in season 3 of, allegedly, of Jessica Jones. God damn, I couldn't remember the sentence. I couldn't remember the name to put in that sentence. But I don't think that was any... Oh, God, that seemed terrible. I didn't watch that season. I didn't watch past this first season of Jessica Jones. But what I read just seems fucking awful. Especially just what they did to Typhoid Mary. But yeah, when Daredevil is brought back to the MCU, they should do Typhoid Mary. She is such a great character. That would be a really fun way to reintroduce Daredevil and Kingpin and them to the show. And it would make my issue of Typhoid Mary's first appearance even more valuable. Not that I'm going to sell it. Fuck speculation. I love Typhoid Mary. She is such a great character. At least in the Nocenti run. I've never read anything past this. I think I briefly talked about this, how I hate her costume after this series. I don't know what her personality's like. Actually, the most recent thing I've read, Daredevil's Reign, she's in that apparently. She's fucking married to Kingpin for some reason. Which doesn't seem like something Typhoid would do. She strings Kingpin along. She has sex with him and shit and pushes his buttons. And Kingpin gets real jealous when she talks about Matt Murdock and Daredevil. She's doing it to piss him off. But she doesn't give a shit about him. She's just using him. So I don't know what her scheme is behind this. I don't know if there is a scheme that she's planning. I hope so, because otherwise it seems like a waste of character. And finally, the point where I stopped reading it, because like I said, I got the 30 issues or something, is the quote-unquote death of Daredevil. Typhoid Mary realizes that, she's in love with Daredevil, Mary's in love with Matt Murdock, and she's like, oh God, what the fuck is happening to me? I used to be cold-blooded, I used to be heartless, but now this motherfucker has my heart. Goddamn, I gotta kill him. I gotta get him out of my life. I just gotta kill him. Fuck Kingpin. I'm just gonna kill him. And so she assembles her team of killers who are past villains that Daredevil has faced in this series. It's Bullet, a giant man who has sort of juggernaut powers. He can run and propel himself at very fast speeds like a bullet. He is also incredibly durable because he can just smash through walls and buildings with no harm done. Bushwhacker's back. My favorite character, good old Bushwhacker. He's a guy who can turn his arm into a weird, gross flesh gun. I still don't know what it is he shoots, or how he shoots the bullets, if they are real bullets. Who else is it? It's the character I didn't mention, really. There is I think I briefly talked about it, maybe. But there's like a whole citywide blackout, and this gang of psychopaths led by a eye patch wearing leopard print pantsuit, or not pantsuit, but like tight leather pants and like big pirate boots and like a shirtless leather vest. That's this guy's getup. He's there. I think it's a he. I don't know. It's sort of, I like that character because it's sort of like androgynous. But they're there. They get broken out of jail by Mary. Who else? Who else? And then I think it might be two more guys who were the Wild Boys, who I briefly talked about. They're just insane men who, will kill people for fun and drive their cars on the sidewalk just for the fuck of it. So she brings them all together, and she's like, here's the deal. We're going to ambush Daredevil. You're all going to take your time to beat the shit out of him, get it out of your system, but don't kill him. You leave him for me. I'm going to kill him. And it's implied that she is going to kill him. I mean, she basically does. But maybe in a way, she was just going to kill his heart. By, like, revealing maybe that she was Mary or something. But, like, things don't go as planned as she hoped. She's like, leave some for me so I can fight him too and take him down and kill him. And so one day, Daredevil, it's after he's decided that, like, he can't go through with this whole Mary thing. He's got to cut that off. He can't keep doing this. He has Karen. Why would he has such a beautiful, perfect fit for him. He has Karen Page, his love. Why is he soiling that with this Mary woman? What is happening to him? Which again makes me think that it was some sort of influence that Mary had over him or something. But like, he wakes up one day and he's like, "Ooh, good morning, gorgeous," and he like ducks her down and like kisses her like that, and then, haha, it's such a great day. Ooh, is that breakfast I smell? Oh, he's like, he's jumping around, playing the pan flute like Stan Lee would around Marvel offices. He's just like feeling real good this day. What happens? Karen leaves the apartment. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go be Daredevil for a little bit. I'll meet you at the clinic later." So he suits up. He goes out the window. And he's like, "Okay, be back, love you, blah, blah, blah. Like, be safe," she yells after. And then he traipses across the rooftops. He's like, "Oh, man, I can't believe I ever thought of, Mary over Karen. What was wrong with me? And it's just such a beautiful day out. I feel great. This is incredible." Bam! Bullet just fucking annihilates him out of the air as he's jumping over a roof, and they smash down through a building and into like a back alley or a street somewhere. That's what it was. Daredevil was he dressed up early because there's a march against like nuclear power. It was the 80s. Nuclear power was all the rage. Everybody was talking about it. So he was going to go march against that because, nuclear waste and shit, that's what caused him to get his powers and made him a blind person. So, he has a stake in it. So he's excited to go do that. He's excited to be with Karen. He's excited to be with the people of New York. And then Bullet just, like I said, annihilates him. They crash down to the street. They're fighting. They fight into the parade, and everybody's screaming at him. They're like, "Fuck you, Daredevil! You're ruining this with your violence, this and that." And Daredevil's just getting, like, he's trying to dodge Bullet as he's fighting through the streets. Everybody's screaming at him. People are panicking, running away. He's trying to, like, get Bullet away from the crowds of people, like, trying to lure him into an alleyway. And Bullet's like, "I'm not falling for that, you jackass." And they're fighting. Bullet gets the upper hand a couple times, and Daredevil's like leaning against the wall. He's like, okay, here he comes. And Bullet's like, oh, I'm gonna end you. And he, wham, just goes right at Daredevil. Not with his fist, but with his head, because that's how he does stuff. He's like Juggernaut. And Daredevil leaps over him, and Bullet just goes straight into a big-ass brick wall and knocks himself out. He crashes straight through, and he's out. He's done for the fight. Then Daredevil's like, okay, is everybody safe? Is everybody okay? You okay? I'm so sorry about this, everyone. I am so sorry about this. And then Bushwhacker shows up, and he starts shooting at him. He's like, get down! He's carrying people to cover. Bushwhacker like rides up real fast on a motorcycle that he stole from somewhere, and he's shooting and blasting his gross arm gun everywhere. And so they fight. Eventually, Bushwhacker, I should mention, was previously blown up in a gas tanker explosion. So he's been in the hospital since we last saw him. He's mostly healed, but he still has like all the bandaging on. He's still moving a little slow, a little sluggish. So he's like, oh fuck, I can't fight him hand to hand or hand to handgun. I gotta get some distance. So he climbs up to this rooftop, and apparently he has like a flamethrower gun arm as well. Cause he gets ready. He's like, hey Daredevil, I'm up here, asshole. And so Daredevil climbs up after him. They fight. What's his name? Bushwhacker uses his flamethrower. Daredevil beats the shit out of him. He gets a little burnt up, but he's fine. And then I can't remember what happens, but Daredevil has to leap off the roof. I think it's because Bushwhacker, he's using his flamethrower, and Daredevil needs to just get anywhere that isn't there. So he leaps off the roof and lands on like a big parade float, which is like, it's like an Uncle Sam sort of anti-nuke character that the parade people have been carrying. Because they're like, oh, well, I guess we better keep going. They're more like, oh, we can't let go of this giant balloon. So he lands on that, and Bushwhacker's like, oh, yeah, this is going to be fun. And he aims his handgun arm, and he shoots the balloon, and it just explodes. It's like rubber and whatever shit is flying everywhere. It's all burning. Daredevil was on top of it, and he slams onto the sidewalk, and he's just out of it. He has shell shock. His senses are going crazy because he can't hear anything. He can't see anything. Can't smell anything, probably. He's just like, oh my God, what is happening? Oh my God, I can't do anything. I hurt so much. His fucking suit is completely torn up. Half of his helmet's gone. He's just like, a sleeve is completely missing. He's destroyed, essentially. Both his body and his suit is destroyed after this. And he's like laying on the ground, and he's like, oh my God, I have to get out of here. And then he just limps away. And he's like, oh my fucking God, what is happening? And he's like, there's people running past him. They're all panicking. The crowds are dispersing in panic. They're like bumping into him and knocking him down. And he's like, what is that noise? I hear something. And it's like a chinking sound, like metal chinking together. And he's like, oh my God, Bushwhacker. He was fucking around with those bullets when I met him, or when I caught him. He was in that movie theater playing with bullets. He's up front. He's up ahead. Oh God, I gotta get ready. And so he comes up and he grabs the guy who he thinks is Bushwhacker, and he starts screaming at him like, why are you doing this, you motherfucker? And he's about to punch him, and it's a guy in a wheelchair. It's a homeless vet or something in a wheelchair who was wheeling himself away, and that's what the metal sound was. And everybody's just, this is a couple blocks away, so people are more or less walking as normal. They're like, what was that weird sound? But, it's New York, so they're still going about their business. And people are just walking to and fro, walking by like, what the fuck is going on with Daredevil? And this woman comes up, and she's like, Daredevil, are you okay? Jesus Christ, stop, that's just a guy. And he's like, where am I? What's happening? Who are you? And he's like, oh my God, man, do you need to go to the hospital or something? Are you okay? It's nice to see this interaction of, these people know that Daredevil's a good person. They know that he's a hero. And she's like, look, Daredevil, you need to go because you're clearly getting hunted. You're really out of it and destroyed. And all those people from the parade, I think at this point these two parades merged together. There's like a pro-weapons, pro-war parade and a anti-nuke parade. So there's fighting going on with them too. And so she's like, you need to go because a lot of these people in that parade that are pissed at you, they aren't from here. They don't know your deal. They don't know that you're a good guy who saves people. You're not making Avengers level news. So they don't recognize you as easily. And he's like, thank you. And then he just starts limping away. And she's like, are you okay? Do you want me to call a taxi? He's like, no. And so he just hovels away. His hearing's still fucked up. His senses are still mostly fucked up. He keeps walking and like this couple walks by and he's like, hey, Daredevil, are you okay, man? Do you need help? And Daredevil's just like talking to himself because he can't like think straight. He's just muttering and shit. And they keep walking and everybody's like, oh my God, what happened to Daredevil? And so eventually he stops. He's like, oh my God, I've never had this happen before. I've never been in a giant explosion like this. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. And he stops and he's like leaning against the wall and he's trying to catch his breath. And then you turn the page and it's the gang leader with the eye patch just runs up and boom, just clocks Daredevil right in the face. It's a beautiful 2-page spread of a battered and beaten Daredevil getting his shit kicked in again. And John Romita Jr., oh my God, he's one of my favorite comic book artists, especially on his Daredevil run. You know, after that, it gets a lot more blocky. I'm still fine with that. I love his art even today. But goddamn, his art on this is just beautiful. So Daredevil, like, he fights this one guy a little bit, and Daredevil gets just his shit kicked in because I think he stopped in like an alleyway or something. He like cuts off through an alley, and then the guy runs up and punches him. Or like the guy throws him in the alley. And he's like, what the fuck is this? I thought I was going to fight Daredevil, not you loser. What happened to you? God damn it. This was a waste of time. I'm going back to jail. And so that guy leaves. And he's like, damn, I got him with one hit. I guess I'm done. And so he just leaves to go do his own devices. So as Daredevil is lying in the alley, he picks himself up out of the garbage. And he looks up. And he sees the ghost of his goddamn father sitting there, battling Jack Murdock. And Jack's like sitting on a crate at the end of this alleyway, and he's like wearing his full like boxing garb. He has like his coat on, he has his big trunks, he has the big gloves, his boxing gloves. He either has them on or he's like has them around his neck. He's like, what the fuck are you doing, son? Matt, what are you doing? I told you since you were a kid that you weren't going to be a fighter. You were going to be better than me. You weren't going to have to resort to this crap. You were going to be better than me. I wanted a better life for you is essentially what he's doing. And Matt's like having another breakdown. He's like crying. He's like, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I mean, I failed you. I think I'm going to die. I'm sorry. And he's like, come on, put your fucking hands up. If you're going to fight, then you better fucking fight. And so Murdoch's just standing there like woozing back and forth, seeing a ghost of his dad getting ready to box with him. And then Matt looks down, he looks back up, and now the ghost of his dad is himself as Daredevil. He's like, what the fuck is happening? And the Daredevil ghost starts fighting him. He's like, oh, I guess I'm going to fight. And he starts fighting like the Daredevil ghost, and he trips himself and he falls back down into the slup, the alley slup. And he starts picking himself back up again, and he hears more voices now that are taunting him, and the camera pulls back and reveals that, who is it? It's I can't remember what one of the villains is. It's one I'm not familiar with. It's probably in the Frank Miller run or maybe the original run, but it's one of his villains. It's Bullseye, it's Elektra, Kingpin, and Typhoid Mary are all there, and they're harassing him, and they're like, you're a failure. We're gonna fucking kill you. You're gonna lose, Daredevil. Goody Two-Shoes Daredevil is gonna lose we're gonna kick your ass and kill you in this disgusting, slup-filled back alley. And Daredevil stands up and he's like, okay, you fucks. And then he just starts fighting these ghosts that aren't there. And then that's when the Wild Boys show up. Again, the Wild Boys, they aren't supernatural. They don't have powers. They're just two psychopaths. They come up and they're at the end of the alleyway and they're standing there watching Daredevil just box and fight nothing. Daredevil's he's like swinging wildly. He's like, like, you know, fucking falling back and forth against like trash cans and shit. He's like, he's reacting to getting punched by nothing. And they're like, what's going on? I thought we were gonna fight Daredevil. What the fuck is this? And so they just walk up to him and they're like, hey, Daredevil, what are you doing, you jackass? And Daredevil turns around and he gets clocked again in the face. And then the guy's like, damn, I got him with one punch. And then they also get disappointed because they were hoping to kick Daredevil's ass, but like, they do, because once Daredevil's back on the ground, they start kicking the shit out of him. And then one of them stops and he's like, hey, are you having fun? This isn't as fun as it would be, you know, if he was conscious. And the other guy's like, yeah, I know what you mean. You want to throw him through that fence? And so they throw him through a fence, like a wood fence, smash him out through there. So now he's got like wood splinters and cuts and shit on top of all the other damage he's got. His suit's destroyed. He's bleeding from everywhere. He's coughing up blood and shit. And he's just like trying to crawl and get himself up. And then the two Wild Boys come back over and they kick him some more. And they're like, fuck him. What are we doing? We're gonna fucking let some bitch tell us what to do? Fuck that typhoid woman. Let's kill him right now. And the guy's like, are you sure about that? And I'm like, yeah, why not? We'll be long gone by the time she figures it out. And so they pick him up. And I don't know exactly what this setting is, but it's like a big valley sort of thing. It's where it seems like a water runoff, sort of like a storm. Like it's like a basin kind of that just continues through the city seemingly. It's like the place that the kids in It go to hang out in. Because there's like buildings on either side, and it's just big valley with like a train track. I guess that's what it was from. Is from the train tracks. I think there's a train tracks. I can't remember. There's like a river going through, and it's just like a little wooded area that like homeless people probably camp in or something. And there's a bridge going over top of it, connecting like both sides of the valley to where like the city is. So they carry him over across that, and they're about to just kick him off when Typhoid shows up, and she's like, what the fuck are you two doing? And she like holds her blade up to both of their necks, and she's like, with a flick of my wrist, I can slice open your carotid arteries. And then I'll cut off your neck, and then as you're bleeding out, I'll just slice up your face for the fun of it. Get the hell out of here. And so they run off terrified. And then she like kneels down to Daredevil and she's like, oh, my poor baby. I'm so sorry I had to do this. And Daredevil's like, Mary? Because the one fucking time he recognizes her as Typhoid, or as Mary, is when she's about to kill him. And so she goes, oh, you wish it was Mary. And she just kicks him off, and Daredevil grabs on with one hand, and she's like, oh, god damn it. I'm sorry. I loved you, but, you know, you can't have that. So she smashes his feet in, or smashes his toes in, and Daredevil just plummets to the bottom of this giant valley. Well, not giant. I don't know how long. It's probably maybe like a 2 or 3 story building, maybe, at most. That's how high it is. And it's 2 pages worth of falling. It's long vertical panels, and it's just such a great scene because, you know, in the movie, the cinematic version, she smashes his fingers and like, boom, and then he lets go, and then it all shuts down to slow motion, and he's falling in slow motion. falling closer. It's cutting back and forth. Typhoid Mary is crying, so you see the tear come out of her tear duct in slow motion and slowly roll down her cheek, and it's like fucking up her like half white face paint that she has, and she's watching him slowly fall, and then bam, he just slams to the ground. And that's the end of the book. At least that's how far I got. Like, if I never read any other Daredevil book after this, I would just be like, oh, so Daredevil's dead. Typhoid Mary killed him. And, yeah, he stays there. He's dead. And that's where he stays for, like, the next couple days. And it's the middle of the summer. They keep going on and on about this giant heat wave that New York is experiencing. And Daredevil's just lying in this fucking little woodlands, like, quarry, just toasting and, like, on the verge of death, like an inch of his life, if that, maybe a millimeter of his life. And then we get a little like issue where Karen's freaking out and they're all trying to find him. She contacts Black Widow. She's trying to help her find Matt. She has to like make excuses as to why Matt's not there. And it's such a great scene because Johnny Storm shows up. He's like, oh, I don't know what rapport Johnny Storm has with Daredevil, but he shows up to help Karen look for Daredevil, and like he, like, you know, she wants to go like talk to like the underground villainous, you know, criminal bad guys and like the bad guys bar or whatever, like the seedy part of town, see what information they can get. She doesn't want to go alone, so she gets Johnny Storm to help her. And Johnny is like, oh man, Karen, here's the thing about going to the seedy part of town. You got to know how to act when you're meeting with those lay of people. Those kinds of people, you know, the criminals, you got to be bad. And so Johnny is rocking black cowboy boots, bold denim pants, and a tank top that is all black. And then on the tank top, on the front, it says "bad!" exclamation point. And then when he turns around, on the back, it says "real bad." And he has like big giant sunglasses on. And he walks into this bar, and it's just him trying to intimidate people. And that fails, so he turns into the Human Torch because he gets pissed off. Because he has to like fight this big guy, and these people start throwing shit at him. He's like, alright, knock it off. And he turns into the Human Torch. And he accidentally burns down this poor guy's bar. And he's like, oh, man, sorry, Karen, hey, guy, the FF will handle the repairs and the reconstruction of your bar, I'm so sorry, and then he just flies away. And then we get to the, I guess, infamous, maybe famous, I don't know how many people really know about this book, or this issue, which is the book where Daredevil fights a vacuum cleaner. I think I might have said toaster in an early episode, but it's a vacuum cleaner. I've never read Inferno, the X-Men book, so I don't know what is really happening aside from demons break out of the earth for some reason, and like magic's there, and she's been enslaved by this fucking dumb demon named like Scythe or Sin or Seth or something. But it seems like it'd be a Ghostbusters sequel script that Dan Aykroyd worked on before they threw it away because it was too ridiculous and expensive. It's evil takes over New York. Demons rise out of the ground. The demons take control of the drug trade. And there's like a whole scene where Kingpin's advisor is like, "Sir, our organization has been infiltrated by demons." But this is days after Daredevil has been missing. He's still lying in that pit, and he's having like death dreams about Stick being there, and Stick is like, come on, kid, you gotta fucking wake up. You gotta heal yourself. I know you have a healing factor, whatever. Set those bones back. Stitch yourself up. Wake up. You are not dying. And he's like hitting him with his stick in like the spirit world. And like Matt turns into like the kid version of him, and Stick is chastising him like, come on, man up, you know, stuff like that. But as this is happening, items all over New York, inanimate objects are coming to life. I don't know if they're being possessed or if it's just evil curses or something. There's like Karen and Black Widow go to a police officer, detective that they know, to like see if he knows anything about Daredevil. And he's like, I got my hands full. I got cars driving themselves, running people over. There's a fucking payphone that's crushing people. This kid got his hand eaten by a swing set or something. I got more on my plate than worrying about goddamn Daredevil. But Daredevil is lying in this pit still. And Mary comes back. And she's like, oh, why did I come here? I wanted to do something here, but I can't remember what. What is happening? And she's like, oh my God, it's her. It's the other woman. Like, you know, over the course of this series, Mary becomes more and more aware that typhoid is a thing. And so she plans eventually to kill herself the same way that she killed Daredevil. Like subconsciously, she sort of just goes there. So as she is standing on the bridge ready to jump off, meanwhile, Matt is down at the bottom being strangled by an evil vacuum cleaner monster that kind of looks like Warlock from the X-Men. So they're fighting there, and like he's still like partially unconscious. He's having like flashes of real life and then flashes of like Stick coaching him back to life. Needless to say, he fights a vacuum cleaner and then he destroys it. And he finally comes back after like 2 or 3 issues of being just gone. He comes back and he's like laying on his back, and Mary looks down and she sees this, and then typhoid takes over. And typhoid goes down there and she's like, oh, look at you, my love. Oh, you need to get to the hospital. Or maybe it's Mary. I'm not too sure. It's at this point where it sort of starts meshing together as to which one's which. You know, because they both care for him and they're both in love with him, so it kind of gets difficult. It's shown through like the hair sort of sticks out more when it's Mary, or I'm sorry, when it's typhoid. But anyway, she takes her to the hospital. Some drama ensues where Daredevil is in the hospital and Karen's there, and then Mary shows up and she's like, oh, he didn't tell you about me? I'm the love of his life. And Karen's like, what the fuck? And she runs into the hospital room and she's like, Matt, wake up. You tell me who this fucking woman is right now. And Matt's like, Mary. Like he says Mary very softly. And she's like, oh my God. And Karen just cries and runs out of the hospital. Of course, this is happening, like I said, during the X-Men Inferno event where demons are taking over some shit. And the hospital becomes possessed and tries to kill Daredevil, and he snaps out of it. He wakes up and he goes out and he's like, holy shit, hell is literally on Earth. He fights an evil train, like a subway train that's been transformed into a demon. This book, if there wasn't an X-Men crossover, this could easily just be a continuation of Daredevil's death dreams. Because in this book, he runs out to New York. It's all red and bloody and like flesh and meat and muscle and shit. And like demons are everywhere. And he's like fighting them off, trying to save people. There's screaming, there's fires. Everything's on fire. People are dead. And he runs down into a subway station. And he sees this giant train coming, and it's like the F train or something, and it's like the announcer's like, F train, next stop, hell, you know, stuff like that. And the train on the front of it, instead of being the window for the driver, it's like a giant dragon's face with giant like sharp teeth and like insectoid and human eyes, and it's just coming at him. And he jumps down into like the fleshy meat of the subway track, and he jumps on the train. And, like, there's people still in the train at this point, but as the story progresses, it just sort of turns into a giant serpent sort of demon with, like, all these appendages coming off of it. Kind of looks like the Sarlacc, if you've ever seen, like, the full body image of a Sarlacc. It has, like, all those little things coming off of it. And it's going straight to hell. It's going down and down, and it's taking all these people with it. And Daredevil's like, oh, my God, I gotta stop this. So he climbs on top of the train, and he climbs his way up to the front of it, and he grabs the demon by its giant horns, and he just starts ripping them back, and he fucking whoosh, pulls it right back up, and explodes out of the ground. And I don't know what happened to those people in that train. I guess they're dead. But but like the giant dragon is there, and previously Stick was like, you're just in the part of the hero's journey where you gotta face the dragon. Something like that. And Matt's like, oh my god, this is what Stick was talking about. And he grabs this like big ass lead pipe that like a rebar pipe or something that he got from like the destruction around him. And he grabs it, and it grows in his hand magically for some reason, and he just tosses it and spears the demon straight through the body. Either the body or the face, I can't remember. And it like slithers back underneath the ground, like it retreats, like it's scared and got hurt, you know. And it's just insanity. It's full on Daredevils fighting fucking demons from hell. And then in the middle of this is the last part I'm going to talk about. There's a beautiful Ditko. Steve Ditko did a little short Daredevil like issue. I guess I don't know what happened here, that they were running behind, maybe scheduling, something messed up. So Ditko does a Daredevil story, which is about during that blackout issue, there's a man who was arrested. He's like a bum or something. I can't remember what he was arrested for. It might have been murder or something. Maybe it was like just being drunk. He escapes jail once the power goes out, and like his jail cell gets destroyed by something. And he's just walking around as like the world's going crazy because it's a blackout. There's all these riots, and he finds a baby in a dumpster. And he's like, "Oh my god, somebody just threw his baby in here." "Hey, don't worry, little guy." No, actually, he starts walking away. The baby starts crying. He's like, "Oh, damn it." And he walks back and he takes the baby with him, and they walk off into the sunset. In this issue, we get to see what happens to them. It must have been like a year at least since that issue, because the baby's now bigger. Still can't speak or anything. It's like maybe 1 year old, 1.5. But the dude, he's like, I don't know what money he has, he spends on this kid. And he's like, they're walking around. The kid has like nice new clothes. And he has new clothes that don't seem very dirty. The guy has like bottle and like baby powder and shit with him. It's just a weird story. It's almost like Lone Wolf and Cub, but it's this bum and a baby. In essence, the story is about old comics getting replaced by the new, young, crazy stuff. It's very foretelling of where the comic book industry is about to go in the next couple of years, especially since it's Steve Ditko doing it. But it's like the main crux of the story is the Owl, famous Daredevil villain, has hired this gang of guys called the Bombers, and they're like the new shit on town. They're like, "Hey, you old Owl man, you're old, you're out of it. What is this dumb animal theme thing you're doing? You look ridiculous. We're the new hot shit." And he hires them to fuck up this cocaine drug trade that's going on so they can get money from these gangs, like millions of dollars. And the Owl wants to use that money on altering his body even more to implant cybernetic wings, because currently the Owl, I guess he has, I don't know, I guess his bones are less dense or something, like a bird's, or like they're hollow, because he can glide or sometimes fly. But he wants to be able to fly all the time like a regular owl, so he wants to get giant wings in his back. He can't do that without all this money. So that's what that story is. The baby comes into it when a bag of cocaine is replaced with a bomb, and about a bag that looks the exact same with a bomb inside that they're using to disrupt this drug trade between these two gangs, so they can, like ransom out money for it. The bum comes up and he's like, "Oh, hey, look at this nice bag," and he puts the baby in it, and then the baby and the bag get stolen by the gang member who's picking up the drugs. So it's just all of that. It's a pretty short story. There's not much there substance-wise. The baby gets returned. Daredevil's like, "Okay, I'm going to let you have this kid, but I'm going to tell the cops about this." It's just a really nice story about the old guard going against the new. Generational type stuff, I guess. And it was nice to see a Steve Ditko story. I liked his Daredevil, even though Daredevil doesn't show up that much. The way he draws the Owl in this book, he's just Wolverine, essentially. He looks exactly like Wolverine. Like, normally I think the Owl is like a little more chubby and older. Ditko's version just looks like Wolverine. It doesn't help that he has also the spiky hair that goes up on the sides, and that the Owl is wearing these like bracers that have 3 sharp knives coming out of the front. So he has like the Wolverine claws too. But yeah, it's a fun story. That's where I'm going to end it today. Whew, that was actually a lot longer than I expected it to be. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Comic Schtick Podcast. I don't remember how I sign off on these. Just, that's what I got to talk about next week. Is something very interesting. I'm going to be talking about both of the Venom movies. I've only seen the first, I haven't seen the second, but I figured why not get ready for Morbius by watching the movies that may or may not take place in the same universe. So next week, I'll be talking about Venom and Venom 2, and I'll also be talking about some venomous people that I've met at work. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for people who tried to fight me at work and the crazy fuckos that you have to deal with. Leave any comments below. Let me know what you thought of the podcast. What are your suggestions for topics? I need more topics. Give me topics. Leave all the topics in the comments below for what you want to hear me talk about or want to see me talk about, depending on how you watch this. If you're listening to this and you've never heard of me before, my name is Blake Wild. I run a YouTube channel called Smokey's Videos. It is based entirely on comic books. Occasionally I'll do movie stuff as well. So check me out there. Follow me on Instagram at Smokey's Videos and at Not Blake Wild. The Not Blake Wild account's more active. That's sort of my personal account, so you'll see more stuff there. Again, check out Destructo Boy, The Era of Alpha Cardinal, Part 1 of 2, hopefully coming soon. Again, this is a completely finished comic. It's going to be $10.99, I assume, plus shipping and handling. I don't know what that'll be. So I guess that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.